In the article, God is Imaginary, 50 arguments are presented against the existence of God. The third of those arguments is based on looking at historical religions besides Christianity. The basic thrust of the argument is twofold. First of all, that there are countless gods that people had believed in the past who are simply washed up. Nobody believes in them anymore because they were unable to show themselves as being real gods, and so people discard them. And presumably the argument is that same thing will happen to Christianity and every religion, because no God really exists, and therefore history ends up making the judgment that the God of these religions does not really exist. And then secondly, and perhaps more importantly, this particular argument makes the claim that Christianity is really just a bunch of ideas borrowed from other religions anyway. That the virgin birth of Jesus, the resurrection of Jesus, all of these find parallels in other religions, ancient religions, fertility religions, mythological religions, and so on. And therefore, there's nothing really unique about Christianity at all. It just happened to triumph over the other religions. Let me say something in a couple of things in response to this. First of all, it has been pointed out, and I know C.S. Lewis, I think, very eloquently made this point, that Christianity does bear similarities or parallels with other religions, and Lewis saw this as actually confirming Christianity. That what the other religions show, like the mythological religions of the ancient Romans and Greeks, and other sort of nature religions, the Middle Eastern religions, and so on, they do tend to talk about things like cycles of death to rebirth, and they may personify the cycles of death and rebirth and so on, which largely are based on watching the seasons of the year. You know, the seasons go through a kind of death in winter, and then springtime springs back to life. And so these religions that are based on personifying forces of nature often sound similar to things that we talk about in Christianity. As to whether or not those same ideas are ones that gave rise to sort of the Old Testament hope that God would raise up the people, or that there would be resurrection, is something that should be talked about. I think there are some other influences there. But let's just assume for the moment that there are similarities and parallels between Christianity and these other ancient forms of religion. For C.S. Lewis, this only shows, and I agree with this idea as far as it goes historically, I agree with this idea that there are parallels and similarities precisely because human beings are yearning for, as human beings, we are yearning for life, we are yearning for salvation. And so we should expect there to be similarities between the various religions, because we're dealing with human beings who have similar hopes and dreams and desires and longings. The difference is that Christianity sets before us not just a kind of abstract or a personified force of nature that is related to these things. Instead, Christianity puts before us a person, a real historical instance of life and death and resurrection, virgin birth, and so on. In other words, in Jesus, the hopes and dreams of world history have come to their realization and to their fulfillment. And that's precisely why Christianity was able to triumph over these other ancient religions and has endured for the last few thousand years and is thriving in the world today. The reason why it continues to grow is not because it's just repackaging ancient ideas that people had, but because the ideas of Christianity are rooted in real historical time and place, and a person who literally was placed in a tomb after his death on the cross and rose again on the third day and appeared to his disciples and transformed their lives so that they went out into the world making a difference, changing that world. And today billions of people in the world embrace that religion. So my point is here, I think the response is that the similarities do not prove that there is something wrong with those ideas, but instead it proves that there's something in human hearts all throughout the world and all throughout history that is longing for fulfillment, and that fulfillment comes to us in Jesus, we believe. Now, I would also say, with respect to these parallels with other religions, that we need to be very careful assuming that the same origin of these ideas is there as in the pagan religions. For example, in the Old Testament, the Israelite people longed for resurrection of sorts, that they would come alive again, in the context of their seeming abandonment by God, that things got bad for them, that they were seemingly forsaken by God, and they spoke about resurrection as God restoring them to the promises that He had made to them before, to their forefathers or to their ancestors. And so the idea of resurrection was not so much tied with the cycles of nature as it is found in these other nature religions and mythological systems, but instead it's tied to the historical people of Israel. In other words, what I'm wanting to suggest is that similarity of ideas does not imply origin, the so-called genetic fallacy, that just because there's similarities between two things, therefore there is an origin in another of that thing. And we could think of all kinds of examples like that. Just because someone reads the Bible in one place and comes to a similar conclusion that I come to, or reads another historical document, comes to the same conclusion, does not prove that we are, sharing notes with each other. That similarities does not prove origin. So it is here with these various other religions. Christianity stands or falls on its own claims and on its own merits. The similarities or differences that exist with other religions either confirm, as I've already pointed out, just to kind of summarize my conclusion here, these similarities between these other religions either show that there is some deep common cry of the human heart that is expressed in all these different religions, or in fact the similarities are only surface similarities and they're not real at all. In any case, I don't think that this argument against Christianity, based on the failure of other religions to survive, and because of similarities, I don't think that proves its case at all.